that's completely okay. So this one's going to be a little bit shorter than normal, guys. We're going to go over the how to read a food log. Oh, that's what I got to do. So I'm going to pull that up. I'm going to screen share with you guys. And if you have any questions, you can just unmute on the way, like during, and just ask them and let me know. It'll just be so much easier. So let me start sharing my screen. All right. Oh, not that. There we go. Bring this down a little bit. All right. So I have my master's in sports nutrition and exercise science. So fueling and refueling for activity is something that I really, really like to talk about a lot. And I think it's really very important too to kind of get the most that you can out of your workouts. So that's where fueling and refueling really comes into play. Now, a lot of people think that they just need to have a fueling regimen if they're going and running a race or if they're doing like a competition of some sort. But it can really be for anything. Having a solid fueling and refueling team can really help set you up for success and actually increase the gains as the time is going on, because we know, especially when we're doing something like weight training, because I know both of you guys do some weight training, our metabolism, stays elevated for 24 to 48 hours post-workout. So our bodies are still building muscle, replenishing what they've used, because in our muscles we store carbohydrates. So when we're doing a lot of our exercise, especially prolonged exercise of strength training or even cardio, we're freeing those stored glycogen that's in our muscles and utilizing it for energy, because a lot of the activity we're doing is aerobic, meaning that we have to break down and utilize energy, rather than anaerobic, which is about the first 2 to 3 minutes of exercise. We are fueling from not our stores. Our body's just trying to make energy as fast as you can. You're using something called ATP, adenine triphosphate, which is what another primary fueling source is, but it's not like you can eat ATP. That's what our mitochondria make, is ATP. But fueling and refueling can really help set us up for success for an extended period of time. So like I have a friend who knows that 4 hours before she works out, if she goes to the gym or she's on a run, she has to cut off. She can't have anything within that 4 hours, else she gets GI upset. So it's really going to be a trial and error as far as how you're feeling and what you're having and what you're doing. So about 2 to 4 hours before, we want to have a meal. And really with this, we want to focus on the carbohydrates, because once again, that's our primary energy source when we're working out, is carbohydrates. We don't want to go too high in protein or too high in fat, because those are both more complex of the macronutrients, and they take an extended period of time to be broken down and utilized in our body. Fat fills you up and protein keeps you full, as you've heard me say before. So we need carbohydrates that are going to be broken down fast. Really here, we want to focus on those complex carbohydrates. So like using the whole wheat or whole grain bread. Oatmeal is another good one. Anything that has that combination of fiber in it. A more complex protein bar, or just bar in general, would be a better option than just going and having like chocolate covered raisins. Yeah, it's a fast carbohydrate, but we don't need fast energy at that point. So we want more of those complex carbs, low to moderate amount of protein to have that sustained release of energy throughout that time into the workout, and lower in fat. So some of those examples are going to be like the turkey sandwich with an orange. We've got a really good balance between good protein from the turkey. It's a lean protein. Obviously, we probably would not want to put mayo on here or go super heavy on the cheese. I know one woman that puts 4 ounces of cheese on her sandwiches and salads. It's a lot of cheese. But really focusing on something like a sandwich with an orange, having that piece of fruit, which has the fiber, which is a complex carbohydrate technically. It's not broken down and utilized for energy, but it helps with that slower release of energy into the bloodstream, as well as some of the carbohydrates in it. Eggs in a mini bagel. If you're having one egg, it's about 7 grams of protein, about 5 grams of fat, which is not too high. I would not go beyond 10 to 15 grams of fat in that pre-workout meal. Anything beyond that, once you get to 20, 25, 30, that's very, very high in fat. Most of the time, that's about half of what our intake should be in fat. So we want to keep it on that lower end, that 10 to 15 grams at the most. So like the eggs with a mini bagel that has about 15 to 20 grams of carbohydrates in it, and the berries, which have if you do a cup of raspberries, there's actually 8 grams of fiber right there. So that's more of that slower sustained release of energy. Grilled fish, I'm thinking more of those lighter fishes, cod, tilapia. Shrimp is another really good option. Scallops, those are lower in fat, really high in protein, a good lean source of protein. Salad and sweet potatoes or regular potatoes. There's really no difference as far as macronutrient wise between sweet potatoes and regular potatoes, other than sweet potatoes are going to have a higher content of vitamin A. So any questions on that 2 to 4 hour before mark?
What about people who work out in the morning?
That's going to be a little bit more difficult. That's where you'd want to focus more so on that 30 minutes to an hour before.
Okay.
If it's morning workout, you really haven't had much of an energy expenditure. Obviously, you've been sleeping, your heart rate's down, your blood pressure's down, so you're not utilizing the same amount of activity than if you were up and moving all day long and then you're going to go work out later. You would need to have more of that proper meal beforehand. So if it's a morning workout, I would say that 30 minutes to an hour before would be more so that sweet spot.
What about working out in a fasted state?
You can work out in a fasted state. I don't recommend doing cardio in a fasted, or I don't recommend, doing a lot of strength training, especially if it's really, really heavy strength training, because you're going to gash your muscles really, really fast. Cardio you can do in a fasted state. I wouldn't go super, super hard. I wouldn't be doing 30 minutes of sprints the entire time. But if you're doing a lower, like let's say a lower weight with doing it fasted, you can do that. And if you're having something like before you go to bed, you'll be helping yourself as well. If you have like a PB&J before you go to bed, and then if you're eating after, you should be helping yourself as well also. I typically don't recommend fasted. I wouldn't want you to go in and do like, when I go and work out with my trainer, we burn 450, 500 calories in that hour. I could not. I tried it once doing it fasted and I almost passed out, excuse me. So I wouldn't do something that strenuous. But if it's more so, if it's a lighter day, if you're just doing yoga or something like that, you would be able to do it fasted.
I tend to do all mine fasted.
How do you feel? Do you feel gassed at all through your workouts?
The only ones maybe on my Saturday ones, which are longer, but generally, no, I've done all my training, like when I was doing half marathons and everything, almost everything was in a fasted state.
And it really depends too on what you're used to. All of our bodies, we process energy a lot different. There has been some research that shows that you will use more of your fat stores if you exercise fasted, but it's a lot more work for your body to dig into those fat stores right away. Whereas if we can continue, let's say we fuel beforehand, we work out, and then we have that elevated metabolic rate for the next 24 to 48 hours, our heart rate's going to be a little bit higher, most likely in that fat burning zone where you're utilizing burning fat there as well.
One thing I do is my energized drink beforehand. So the Beachbody Energized, I take that before, so it's just a drink.
Yeah, and that I'm sure probably has some carbohydrates in it as well,
Yeah.
which is probably helping you too. So that's perfectly fine also. I know some people that drink a pre-workout, which usually has about 15 to 20 grams of carbs in it, but it has beta alanine in it, and that's typically what gives people like that jitteriness, that weird like tingle feeling, which I don't like at all when I'm working out, but it is an option. All right, so 30 minutes to an hour before. I'll use like an example. So when I go to the gym, I usually start at 4:30. I usually have a snack at 3:30, 4 o'clock. At this point, we want to really focus on carbohydrates because that's going to be able to be broken down and utilized quickest during that time frame. So I like to say rice cakes is a good one. Last week I actually had goldfish. I was doing pretzels with a little bit of peanut butter. I wouldn't go too much on the peanut butter because that can cause some GI upset. But if you give it, trial and error is really what's going to be the best as far as what's going to help you or not. Another really good option is fruit. Having berries, melon, apples, anything like that's a good option. Like a simple granola bar. So I'm talking about like a chewy granola bar. They're about 100 calories. They have 15 grams of carbs there. That's something that's going to be able to utilize fast and help you through that workout rather than something that's going to be bigger and heavier and take longer to be able to be utilized. Or a low fat regular yogurt. I wouldn't do a Greek yogurt beforehand, but you can do like the Dannon have just a plain old regular yogurt that you could have beforehand. I think they're about 80 to 100 calories, moderate amount of protein, about 5 to 8 grams, which isn't too much, and at least 15 grams of carbohydrates. So really in that half an hour to an hour before, even up to 15 minutes if it's something that's super light, like saltine crackers. That would be ideal at that point. Any questions on that, guys? So
No.
yeah.
No questions on that.
Okay. So during your workout, I typically, unless I have some of my clients they do distance running. They have more of an instruction for me saying that they do need to eat something at that point because they're doing 8, 10, 12, 15 miles at that time. That's a point where you really do need to have something before. But if your exercise is really lasting 60 to 90 minutes, you really don't need a snack during that time. If it's about 60 minutes or so, you really don't need a Gatorade or anything. You're not sweating that much at that point unless it's a crazy, like a HIIT workout, even Orange Theory. Those are some tough workouts where you could probably utilize the Gatorade. But if your exercise is lasting about 60 minutes or so, which most regimens are, you really shouldn't need anything. But if it's an extended period of time or you're starting to feel lightheaded, things like pretzels, which are very easily broken down and utilized for energy. Juice is a good one. 4 ounces of juice, wait 15 minutes and see how you feel. Oranges are another good one. Any of the dried fruit, that's going to be more of a concentrated sweetness where you don't have to have a large volume, which might cause some upset stomach. You could have just like a handful. They have mini packs of raisins that are 100 calories. You can always try those, or once again, those small granola bars are going to be very easy to utilize during your workout. They'll provide that fast energy hit. So once again, we're really looking for that carbohydrate at that point during a workout if we need it. But 60 minutes or so, 60 to 90, depending on how you're feeling, what the how strenuous it is. You shouldn't need anything. If it's beyond that, then you might need something. Any questions? Nice yes so far, Natalie. Okay. So post-workout recovery. Now, I do need to update this this slide here. So for someone who is a casual exerciser, so we're not here trying to be bodybuilders or anything like that. That 15, 30-minute mark isn't as important for us. What matters more post-exercise is that we're at least getting in the amount of protein that we need a day. So you could have had a protein shake. There are studies that have come out saying even if you have a protein shake before, you're still like a couple hours, of course, you're still going to be able to utilize that benefit. You're still going to be able to utilize the energy that's in there. You wouldn't need to go and have a protein shake after if you didn't want one. But if you're really, really concerned and wanting to get the most in that 15 to 30 minutes is that key point. Simple carbohydrates and protein are what really is our bodies are craving at that point. So we've released all of those glycogen stores in our muscles. Those are now flowing through our bloodstream to feed all of our cells. They are absorbed, the glucose is absorbed through the blood into the cells, and that's what is feeding our cells at that point. We have that protein to help rebuild that muscle back because when we're exercising, we're actually tearing muscle fibers. So in order for us to increase our strength and increase hypertrophy, muscle size, we want to have that protein to help with those building blocks there. So like chocolate milk is a really good one. I also like Fairlife. That's a little bit lower in the carbohydrates, but it's higher in protein per glass. They also have some of their shakes too, which are pretty good. Their core power shakes are pretty good. They're also coming out with a coffee creamer that I was able to try last year at the Food Nutrition Conference. Cheese stick and pretzels or crackers. That's a really good option. The cheese stick has about 8 grams of protein, or like a turkey sandwich or any of those sandwiches like that. If you wanted to make a quick wrap or have a sandwich doing a peanut butter and jelly, all of those are really good options post-exercise. If you're doing a protein shake, I usually say have it with some sort of milk. If it's dairy milk, that's fine. If you're going to use almond milk, oat milk, or anything like that, make sure it does have some carbohydrates in there to help replenish those muscle stores. It's going to help with recovery a whole lot better because exercise is putting a lot of stress and strain on our bodies. So if we're not actively recovering and making sure that what we're having post-exercise is ideal, then it's going to be a lot harder for us to bounce back and for our next routine. Sound good, guys?
Yeah, I've done the core power after my Saturday workouts since they're a little longer. I love them after that. They taste really good.
They really do. And I like them, honestly, better than protein shakes because I don't like how some protein shakes get really, really chalky. Whereas with the Core Power, it's lactose free. So if anybody has a lactose allergy, it's not going to cause any issues with that. It's a higher protein. It's really high quality too, and they taste really, really good.
Yeah.
Those, I mean, I don't typically say is doing that as like a meal replacement, but that can always be part of a meal. If you know that you're going to have, like, let's say cereal for breakfast, you can always pair a Core Power drink with it. And that will actually increase your protein, and you'll still, it's not too high in calories. I think it's about 160 or so.
Yeah, well, I think it's 170. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but they're good, and they're pretty readily available also. I've found at, there's a Dollar General near my house that actually has them in their refrigerated section, which
Oh,
they're
wow.
becoming more and more mainstream. I remember stopping at like a truck stop, and they had them too there. So they're pretty readily available, and they're pretty delicious too. All right, so fluids too, kind of like with the snack, you really don't need Gatorade while you're working out unless it's an extended period of time. That's 60 to 90 minutes. You know, let's say if you're a very heavy sweater, it might be a good option, because really what it is replenishing some of the carbohydrates. We wouldn't want to do a Gatorade Zero or a Powerade Zero, because we need those carbohydrates to replenish those muscle stores. Most of the time we're using that to help bring our blood sugar back up and replenish those electrolytes that we've sweat out. But most of the time, if your exercise around 60 minutes to 90 minutes, water will be just fine. I recommend taking a couple of sips every 15 minutes or so. And something really cool too is you can weigh yourself before and after working out. And for every pound that you lose, you want to drink back 2 cups of water. So let's say you're down 2 pounds. And this really is, it's harder to do if you're drinking throughout, but let's say you didn't drink anything. You're down 2 pounds from before workout to after workout. You'd want to drink 4 8-ounce glasses of water back, because that's what your sweat rate is. You're not losing fat in that second. You're not building muscle mass in that second. It's an extended period of time thing. A lot of it has to do with our nutrition and our NEAT. It's more of that loss related to sweating. So we'd want to drink that water back. And it's very, very important in the summertime. We should all be increasing our water intake, especially in the summer with how hot it is. So fluids are very, very important. That's really what's also going to help with cooling too, because when you're sweating, that's how your body's naturally trying to cool itself, or trying to get that water out, which is a mechanism to help bring our body temperature down. Because even with a couple degrees difference, we can actually start shutting down. If our body temperature gets too high, our organs actually start shutting down, which is not what we're looking for, obviously. All right, and then with supplements, like I said, we want to mix it with milk or a milk substitute to get more of the protein out of it, as well as the carbohydrates too, rather than just doing it with water. Almond milk, if you're concerned, you're trying to be pretty tight with your calories. Almond milk is pretty low in calorie. Soy milk is very equivalent to dairy milk. It has most of the same nutrition, but in a lactose-free form, of course, in a vegan form. Most of the time, a lot of the shakes will be between 20 and 30 grams of protein, which is really pretty good. You don't have to drink up to 90 grams of carbohydrates, but 20 grams of protein, as long as we're factoring that into our entire day thing, that's pretty good. Any questions on that, guys? Okay, so really, go ahead.
Yep, say no again.
Okay. But yeah, we really, especially with exercise, we don't want to be skipping, we don't want to be skipping meals, because that's what our body's fuel source is. We have to stay on top of the water. Energy boosting snacks between meals, before workout. Think of that combination of carbs and protein. That protein is going to help those carbohydrates be an extended release of energy throughout that time, which is obviously super helpful. I'm going to pull up too. I shared this in your guys' in Slack last week, and I've been uploading them to your drives as well. This is another thing I've made. It's just another idea of like smart sources of protein, because I know sometimes it can be hard to get enough protein in. So eggs, one egg has 7 grams of protein. Almonds are actually pretty high in protein per serving. A 1/4 of a cup has 6 grams, which is higher than any other nut. Chicken breast, actually 75% of the calories for the entire chicken breast come from protein. Most breasts are between 2 to 6 ounces. The serving size is usually 3 to 4 ounces. Oatmeal is actually a really good, another one. It's a whole grain, so you're getting fiber with that as well. Cottage cheese. I eat so much cottage cheese because I put bacon in it. And I also put, what is it? Everything but the bagel seasoning. But it's a really great source of some of the nutrients of concern, as well as a really good source of protein. You can have a half a cup and you've got 16 grams of protein right there. So it's a good option to have, and it's quite tasty too if you dress it right. I know a lot of people have issues with the consistency, and I did too, but adding in the bacon actually helped a lot. You can add it in seeds and nuts, hemp, or whatever you like. Yogurt obviously is a really good source. Most of the cups that you find at the grocery stores are 5.3 ounces. So obviously that is not a full cup. A full cup is 8 ounces. So that has about 12 grams of protein. You want to be conscious too of the added sugar at that point, because yogurts can be hiding a lot of added sugar. Broccoli, surprisingly, it is not that high in protein. It actually has 3 grams of protein per cup, but that's higher than any other vegetable. It has a lot more protein than any other vegetable. Lean beef is another really good option. 3 ounces will contain about 25 grams of protein. Tuna fish is really good. 1 can, 27 grams of protein, which is great. Quinoa is another good option, 8 grams of protein per cup. Pumpkin seeds, especially around Halloween time, roast those up, put a little olive oil and seasoning on there. An ounce, which is about a fourth of a cup, has 9 grams of protein. You can throw that on a salad to increase the protein there without having to increase the volume. And shrimp. When I was reading this, I knew shrimp was pretty low in calorie, high in protein, but 20 grams of protein in 3 ounces and only 84 calories, that's really very good. So just being smart about your protein sources, mixing it up, and really listening to your body as well. If you know it's going to be an extended period of time between you eating and exercising, I highly recommend seeing if you can get more of those complex sources. So doing like the cottage cheese, I'll do it with an English muffin. And I'll have breakfast at 8 and I'll eat lunch at 1. And I'm not really hungry until 1 o'clock because you have that good mix of carbs, protein, and fat there. Any questions, guys? All right. Well, I will save this and I will upload it into Slack. If you guys have any questions on this, please let me know, and have a wonderful night. And I'll put up a poll for next month to see what times work best for you. It'll probably be towards the end of next month because I'm moving into my new apartment in the middle of the month. So yay. But have a wonderful night, guys, and let me know if you need anything.
Well, thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.